Welcome in, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another round of the Brotherly Ballers. We're going to get right into it here because we have lots of stuff to cover, and someone may or may not be having a rough go of things so far. So we're just going to power through the night and see how this goes. So, Tyler, how are you doing now, and how will you be doing if I tell you I have another round of Liar Liar for you?
Oh man, we're going to be doing okay, and then we're going to be doing a whole lot worse.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just move right on. I was very excited for these three. So if you get all three of them,
Awesome.
I will give you a prize or do a shot with you or something. So no cheating, but here you go. We're
Good
going to
deal.
rattle through
No,
these.
man.
So everybody who's playing along, if you get all three of them, comment and let us know because I'll be amazed as long as you don't cheat. Rules as always. One of these three things is true, and the other two are. Or no, I'm sorry. Two of these things are true, and one of these things is totally made up. So bear with me. See if you can figure these out. Tyler, they're a little bit long, so I'll repeat as needed. Number one, the Malayan sun bear, known as Ursus malanus, is known to be constantly constipated. Their digestion cycle lasts longer than 7 to 10 days, longer than any other species of bear, and it also results in the largest poop-to-body ratio in the bear family. So we're starting out quality right off the bat. Number two, Ophiocordyceps is a species of fungus that turns ants into zombies, making them climb up a tree before making the ant's body explode to release the cordyceps down on the other ants below and just keep the cycle going. Sounds scientific and smart. And number three, horses can't vomit because their digestive system anatomy prevents food from moving back from the stomach or the mouth. Because of this, simple digestive issues can kill a horse. Which one's the lie?
Yikes. I have absolutely no idea.
Good. That's why I like
feel like I'm gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna say the horse one is true. Just like dogs can't sweat, horses can't vomit. Just feels, I don't know why.
That seems right.
The other two sounded so scientific, and that last one sounded so simple. So I feel like you're trying to trick me to make it have a simple one in there. So I'm gonna keep that one in there. The ant one is so ridiculous. I don't even know how to begin to explain what those words are. I don't know. Those are some big words, and I believe that you would do well at making them up and potentially stuttering over them, even though you made them up on purpose because you're smart like that. But I'm gonna go with the bear one. I don't have any reason why, but I'm gonna go with the first one. I'm gonna go with the bear one.
You are correct.
Is the
one
lie.
for one so far. The bear is completely made up. There's not a species of bear with a poop to body ratio. So Tyler is 1 for 1. Number two,
Boom.
The Three Musketeers, when first released, came with three different types of nougat: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Hence the name, Three Musketeers. However, they had to cut down to one due to sugar rations being too expensive. I believe this was during like World War II. I forgot to put that part in there. But,
yeah.
Number two, during the American Revolution, there was a secret society of knitting old ladies known as the Spindle Sisters who smuggled battle plans to military commanders by stitching them into scarves. And number three, a man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived both atomic bombings in Japan. He was in Hiroshima when the first one dropped and then went back home before the second one dropped, surviving both and living to be over 90.
All right.
Big brain time.
Yeah, big brain time. Unfortunately for you, I know the third one is true because I know I've heard that one before. Both middle two or the first two are incredible. The Three Musketeers thing could have come with extra nougat and sugar ratios because that would make sense during wartime. And I want the middle one to be true so entirely bad because old ladies knitting battle plans into things for generals through scarves sounds incredible. So I really hope that one's true. So I'm going to take the Three Musketeers one and say that one is the lie.
I'm checking my sources here. Stay in mind. Unfortunately, it looks like the Spindle Sisters is the lie. The nougat one was a thing.
I should have known.
Chocolate was the one that was kept. Spindle Sisters sounded like a cool name, but yeah, I don't. If you would have asked questions,
I was like,
follow-ups, I
that
would
was
have had
so
nothing.
Jack. That name, yeah, I was like, that name was so you. Like, that was such a you name to come up with that I'm like, that one I feel is such a lie. But that sounds like Jack would be like, this is a perfect name for them.
Yeah, for whatever
Dang it,
reason,
I should have went
it
with
was
my
too
gut.
expensive for them to keep all three types, so chocolate became the
Yeah, that's
only
kind of
one.
crazy.
And I don't know why vanilla and strawberry, because they didn't sell as many flavors of that. So for whatever reason, that's true about the Three Musketeers. So all right, Tyler is 1-1.
I like it.
Jack does not have to do the shot, thank Christ. Number 3, final one. Movies that feature Brad Pitt eating more than 200 calories on screen do better at the box office and have a higher IMDb rating than films that do not. Number 2, the only U.S. state without a private bathroom for its governor is Rhode Island. The closest bathroom is instead a shared public restroom located outside the Department of Sanitation's office on the floor below the governor's office. Doesn't even have his own floor for the bathroom. And then number 3, if you say chat GPT with a French accent, you are essentially saying, cat, I have farted in French.
Okay, those
Hurts
all
Tyler's
were
brain.
ridiculously bonkers.
Yes.
All 3 of those hurt my brain so very much. I don't know where to go.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah, talk it through with the folks at home.
Rhode Island is obviously the smallest state, so that I could see that making sense to be like a governor's office could just be like out of somebody's house versus people. Everybody just thinks like governors and things like that live in some big White House like the president does. Certainly not the case. So I could see that being true, that you wouldn't have your own floor and your own bathroom. That's not super crazy. So I'm going to keep that one in there. But then I know nothing about French, so it certainly could. And then the first one is just so ridiculous. Somebody went through and counted up the calories for how
not
much
just eating,
Brad
but
Pitt
over 200
ate
calories.
in different, over 200 calories. So if that one's true, that is absolutely ridiculous that somebody took the time to go through that. So I got to go with the Brad Pitt one.
The Brad Pitt one is factually correct. Apparently
that
he eats
redonkulous.
He eats in a lot of his movies. I even looked up like a YouTube compilation, and he eats in so many damn movies. So like Oceans,
Robert
he's
Downey
constantly
Jr.
eating. So the one that's a lie is
That is
actually the Rhode Island bathroom. That is made up. I just went with it because it was the
Really?
smallest state,
Nice.
and it just seemed like it made sense. So I'm sure there's probably many that don't have their own bathroom, but not just that one. So the liar strikes again. But Tyler got the first one out of the way. So
touche.
Anyways, moving into normal.
I didn't get shut out.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that matters. A 1 in 3 chance, and you got 1 in 3. So there you go. So
that's right.
Welcome. I'm sorry for those of you that have stuck with us this long and not left already, but we're going to get into some real football stuff now. Thanks for watching us on YouTube.
That is
Go
a
subscribe.
solid 7-minute intro.
That's what I'm here for. So we're gonna make things up on the back end. I'll only do a couple of the crazy stories this week, but we're gonna move into our segment that kicks things off.
Oh gosh, your boy is absolutely miserable right now.
We're kicking.
I can't get anything to load.
This
is what's happened. So
is bananas. Yeah, it's fine. We don't need it. I'm just gonna do a few. I'll save some for next time because there's too many. We don't want to take up too much time here after this nonsense intro. But a few fun facts for you. First one, I have to shout this one out to Jordan because he sent this in to mention it. But the list of names, the top 10 players with the most receiving yards in Week 7, make me want to throw up. It's Keon Coleman at the top, Rashad Bateman, Amon-Ra, George Pickens, makes sense. Breece Hall cracking over 100. Cade Otton, DK Metcalf, sure. Terry McLaurin, Jonnu Smith, Romeo Doubs. Just names that you would not expect about half of them. A couple more. We got the highest rush yard differential in the first 6 games of the season all time. The record was 855 by the 1934 Bears. The Ravens have now broken that record with 878. So a 90-year almost.
Insane.
Yeah, they're holding teams to like 2.7 yards per carry as running backs. So Let's see. Tony Pollard is currently top 10 in broken tackles with 18, and one of only 3 running backs averaging 4 or more yards after contact per attempt. So not the guy you'd think that's the bruiser breaking tackles, but here we are. Since Andy Dalton took over in week 3, only Derrick Henry has more fantasy PPR points than Chuba Hubbard. Number 2 overall. Let's see. Isaac Guerrero, the 49ers backup running back we talked about, he has a speed score of 125.7. If you're like, I don't know what that means in that context. Ooh. It's one of the highest ever. And to put it in comparison, Saquon's was 124.3. So better than Saquon.
That's crazy.
This one hurts big time. With the Amari Cooper trade officially now on the Browns roster, backup safety Rodney McLeod is the only Browns player, including offense, to score more than 1 touchdown on the season.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
I loved that one. I thought that was insane. This one also, I'm going to keep just ripping on them every week, it seems like. But the lowest single season average target depth in the Pro Football Focus era, aka since 2006, was 2020's post-surgery Alex Smith when he came back from that nasty leg injury. He had 5.4. The next place person is 2024's Pat Mahomes at 5.7. Since 2006.
Ridiculous. Yeah, he's been completely useless.
Yeah. And then lastly, a little local team home insult here, but among the 42 runners with 42 carries or more, it's weird that lined up that way, but among those, Ty Chandler ranks 42nd in broken tackle percentage and yards after contact, both, and he's 39th in yards per carry. So crushing it.
Good job. Way to come in here and spell Aaron Jones ever and do the worst you could possibly do.
Yeah. So
of any other running back that has touched the ball, you're the worst. Great job.
We need Aaron Jones to stay healthy is what that turns out to be. So
correct.
That is all I got for this issue's bananas. So we kind of rattled through that quickly, but some insane ones this week. So I'll bring you a few more next week. And if you have any of your own, if you have any crazy stats or tweets that you come across, send them our way and we'll let you know. So thanks for Jordan this week.
Yeah, we'll hit the button. Just see if it works. Boom. Yes? No?
Got nothing.
Didn't want to. I tried to hit it like 4 times. It's...
Oh.
See how quickly we get it in.
There it is.
It's trying really hard. Oh, didn't even go on my side.
Oh.
Did you actually hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, good, because there was silence on my end.
Oh, Tyler's.
I told you, my computer is struggling.
Everyone else in the area is using Tyler's Wi-Fi, and it's not going well. So
it is very brutal.
All right. Well, moving into NFL news, we got the Vikings 60-second synopsis. So, Tyler, how did Week 7 go?
The undefeated streak is no more. It was a tough game. I mean, it was a really fun game to watch. Don't get me wrong. We were truly pretty constantly behind, but we lost to Detroit 31-29. Detroit got their field goal with about 15 seconds left. We almost stole it back. We got the Ivan Pace scoop and score to put us up by 1. We had an opportunity to get a few first downs and end it, and we couldn't do it. They destroyed us on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a day, even after Monty got hurt. So Goff we did really well as well, 282-2. So we just didn't get enough pressure on him to make a difference.
Yep, sounds about right. That was kind of what I was saying coming in. Obviously, I was like, there's a chance that they can get up on us early with all the playmakers, but I was hoping we keep it close. I didn't expect us to win. I think it made as much of a statement hanging in there with them as it did. Lions played very, very well. They are good on many different levels on both sides of the ball, unfortunately. So 5-1, I still feel like is like playing with house money at this point, and better than a lot of us would have expected. So we'll talk about it in a little bit, but we get a break in the schedule coming up, which is nice. Starting hopefully with this week, but it's a short schedule week. We're going to be going over to LA to play the Rams on Thursday Night Football. So do you have any thoughts on like this game in general, or if we win or lose, or how you're feeling or going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't mind the spot for us. I mean, it's kind of that. It's a tough game after a very tough divisional game, high scoring game. Traveling across country and across time zones is always tough. Rams likely getting Cooper Kupp back, so there's going to be a lot of buzz in the stadium. But I feel pretty confident still. I mean, our strength is certainly still our run defense, but Kyren Williams is one of the best in the NFL, and they have no issue feeding him the ball legitimately near 30 times a game. So if we can stop him and knock him down, I think we've got a great chance. It's really just a matter of if we can bottle him up, and our offense can keep pace, because the Rams defense is brutal.
Yeah.
So we should be able to score on them. It's really just a matter of if we let them control the clock with Kyren.
Yep, totally agreed. I think it just needs to be a statement game after Gibbs gashing us. They're not quite as explosive in the open field, though. Having Cooper Kupp come back is not ideal this week against us. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. I think Stafford's a little less mobile than Goff in the pocket. So, I mean, hopefully we can get a little bit more pressure, and their offensive line is worse. So that plays well into our strengths. It's just going to be, like you said, kind of keeping everything in front of us and not letting Kyren break it. And maybe we can stop his insane touchdown streak going on so far. So, rest of season, we talked about. Schedule feels a lot better. I predicted a couple of weeks ago we would probably lose one of Detroit or New York, so that's why it was so important to get that New York game. Our schedule gets very easy, and we get players getting healthier. I mean, Aaron Jones came into the week hobbled and is still limited as of yesterday, but having an extra week for him, having an extra week for Hawkinson, I don't think he's going to play this week, but it's nice that he's close. We'll go over the next 6 games here in the future, but it feels like, I mean, all of them feel like we should be the favorites, but I feel like there's a couple that'll probably play a little bit higher than expected. So, I mean, even if we come out of this 4-2, that's kind of what I'm envisioning. That puts us at 9-3. We might be behind on the Lions, but I think we should still be in a solid spot for second place in the division and probably top 3 in the NFC record wise. So in shouting distance. And then we get like 3 of the last 5 games against divisional opponents to kind of make up ground as needed. So a crazy fun fact that I came across, after the first 6 games, the Vikings had faced, not necessarily in order here, but overall, the 3rd, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, and 11th pass defenses ranked by EPA per pass allowed. But our next 7 opponents are from 24, 23, 32, 18, 2, which is the Bears, 30, and then 25. So we do well in the passing game. We're also getting fully healthy at the right time with Hawkinson coming back. We should be able to move the ball pretty easily against almost all these teams. The Bears might be a little interesting challenge, but it's going to feel a lot differently. So if our offense has been able to keep up this well so far, we should get a little bit of a break coming in. And as long as our defense stays hot, I feel pretty good. So.
Yeah, I agreed. I think, yeah, it's just like you said, is the early season stretch, and we came out of it much better than anybody expected, and it's only going to go more positively now into the favor of what we do well. So I think we come out of that, we're doing great.
All right, well, we'll move into some NFL pick'em here. Again, we're about getting close to the halfway point here, but you're picking 2 teams every single week and can't use them again. So through 7 weeks, Mac continued his, again, 2-0 streak. Basically, everybody went 2-0 this week except for myself and Joe, which you don't want to be in good company, or you don't want to be in the company of Joe when you're talking about NFL pick'em. So Mac went 2-0 with the Jaguars and the Rams, going up to 11-3. We then have myself, Tyler, and Nate all tied at 9-5. I picked the Jaguars and Patriots just against each other, making sure we get one of those wins out of the way. Tyler got the Jaguars and the Rams right, and then Nate copied him with the same ones, or matched him, I should say, with the same ones. Right behind them, we got Nick and Foster, both going 2-0 with Nick picking the Jaguars and the Commanders correctly. Blowout there. And then Foster getting the Rams, popular pick this week, and the Colts correct. Joe went 0-2, dropping down to a even 500 here, picking the Patriots, trying to get the upset there, and the Texans, who got beaten by the Packers. So a little bit of reverse curse juju for him, being a Packers fan. And then lastly, Connor went against the Vikings, picking the Lions correctly, and again got the Broncos as well. So he's up to 6-8. He's back into kind of striking distance with the rest of the crew here. So we'll see if we can catch Mac. So Tyler, what are we looking at for week 8?
Yeah, week 8, we got some more popular ones on the docket. A lot of Jets. We're feeling they're going to turn around because they play the Patriots. So Jack, myself, Nick, Nate, and Joe all going with the Jets over the Patriots. Lions, another popular pick as well. Yeah. So Lions over the Titans. So Jack, Nick, and Foster all going Lions over Titans. And then a few Broncos in there as well. Broncos over Panthers, certainly understandable. Nate, Mac, and Foster all going Broncos over Panthers. Then a couple of interesting ones. Max going Dolphins over Cardinals. I thought that was pretty spicy.
Better hope
Tua might be back, but could be interesting there as well. And then Joe's going Jaguars over Packers. I don't know if he's going some reverse juju or what he's going for there, but that was an interesting one. So I enjoyed that. And then I was one of the only ones that hadn't used the Chargers yet. So my last one is going to be the Chargers over the Saints. And then Connors just came in a second ago, and he is going to go with the Rams, and he's with me on the Chargers over the Saints, and then the Rams take on, I'm not sure who the Rams got this week.
He's going against the Vikings pick again.
Oh yeah, the Thursday night. Yeah, that's right. So he's going Rams over Vikings, and he's going Chargers over Saints.
I am shocked that nobody picked the Steelers. I don't know how many people have them still available, but that was the team that I really wanted to use versus
not a lot.
So
not a lot. Mac, I was like Mac, you, me, Nate have all used them.
Connor and Foster
have all used Philly, so yeah, I was
Nick.
like Nick, Foster, Joe, and Connor could have used them. So the 4 on the bottom could have, and the 4 on the top have used them.
Yeah, interesting. I get getting the Broncos out of the way though, so I mean, I would have done it if I didn't have
me as well.
So. Oh well, we'll see. Hopefully Mac loses a couple here. I do like that he's continuing to use like good teams, but this might be the week. That Dolphins one could be interesting. The Broncos, I expect to handle business pretty well here. But if we can make up some ground, we can start to slowly inch on him since he's used a lot of solid teams so far. Moving into the Minnesota sports season-long pick'em, we had a pretty solid week last week. So out of nowhere, Tyler with the high score on the week for 13 to bump him up to tied for first. Incredible. Right. The next best score on the week was 12 good week. Out of the 15, but yeah, 13. I mean, far and away above most people. A lot of people were down at like 9, 10. Me and a couple of other people had 12, so we had the two tied for highest scores in the week. So made up some ground on the crew. Tyler is the leader at 72. I'm up to 65, so not far off. We did pretty well on some picks that looks like nobody really went with. So the ones that we nailed it with, or I should say that I nailed it with, I believe Tyler did most of these as well, but kind of the upset picks last week that weren't the consensus. I went with the Broncos over Saints at 29%. It just seemed very odd, and they won outright. Packers at 41% over the Texans. I talked about this game being one of those where like the Texans were favored and listed as the better team, but it just seems like one of those the Packers win. They do well beating like good record teams consistently. And then the Chargers at 42% versus the Chargers. It came down close. The Cardinals squeaked it out, but I felt like it was going to be an easier game than it was. So we'll take the win. So week 8 winners. We've got 8 games this week that have a 90% or higher favorite. So it's a lot of consensus, but we'll pick a couple of spicy ones, I guess. So I've got the Vikings, Ravens, Lions. I'm picking the Cardinals as of now. It's a 50-50 game straight up. So I mean, if Tua is active, I will probably switch to the Dolphins, but if not, I think it's pretty highly likely the Cardinals win. So we'll see there. I got the Jets. I am going the Falcons at 27% currently versus the Buccaneers. It seems like that hasn't adjusted yet, just with the Bucs losing Godwin and Evans, which we'll talk about later. But seems like that should have been a closer game anyways as a division. They're both 4-3. Atlanta's the away team, but missing those playmakers is going to be tough. Up next, I got the Packers and the Titans. Then I'm going with the Eagles. They're only a 59-41 favorite over the Bengals, so that just kind of surprised me. Bengals are kind of coming on hot at the right time, but I still feel like the Eagles will handle it here, so we'll see. Chargers, Bills, I got the Commanders if Jaden Daniels plays. Otherwise, I'm going to pivot to the Bears because they're a 36% underdog just to try to gain an extra game there. And then Broncos, Chiefs, 49ers, and Steelers, all pretty consensus rounding things out. So any thoughts there for you? Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Oh, they can now with Amari Cooper, baby. No, does it change anything for you, assuming DK is out, being that he's week to week listed? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. They were going to be my underdog pick of the week until the DK news, just because I thought it would be an interesting back and forth game. But yeah, I could see it going either way. So, I mean, maybe if it gets big enough where it's everybody picking Buffalo, that might be a pivot spot where I can try to steal an extra game here. But I think if you're towards the lead, I think it's just, go with your gut at that point. So, as far as underdog pick of the week, once again, almost every single one have nailed surprisingly so far this year. The Broncos was the pick last week over the Saints on Thursday Night Football. Got that one down. Week 8, I am going with the Falcons. We talked about versus the Buccaneers. 27% underdog. I get that the Buccaneers are at home, but just losing their top 2 options is going to hurt a lot, and I think Atlanta can move it through the air pretty consistently. So we'll see on that one. And then we're going to pause here before we go into some bomb squads and butt cheeks updates. And moving into some bomb squad and butt cheeks updates. Recapping our teams where we've each picked 3 out of all the 32 teams, about 10 of us total. So we've got 30 of the teams, and each of us are combining our guys to either have the most wins or the most losses. So my Panthers, Raiders, and Seahawks, week 7, I went 1-2. The Seahawks unfortunately crushed Atlanta, and I was banking on getting that 0-3 again. But 1-8 over the last 3 weeks is certainly helping get me back in the loser side of things. So Week 8, I've got the my Seahawks taking on Buffalo. We just talked about that one. Hoping it's a loss, especially with DK being out. But again, it could kind of go either way. I wouldn't really be surprised. Then I've got Carolina versus Denver, who is somehow 4-3. It could be a coin flip game. I expect Denver's defense to handle things, but we'll see. And then the Raiders versus Kansas City. So we got that as a loss. That's good. Feels like it should be a 1-2 week. Could be a good chance at 0-3 as long as Seattle doesn't step up crazy and as long as defense for Denver does their thing. So we will see there. I believe I am tied for first with most losses here. We'll get the standings updated next week, but in a pretty good spot despite the Seahawks early start that was strong. So Tyler, how's your 3 doing?
Yeah, mine are doing too well. This is not what I was going for when this originally started. It turns out the Broncos defense and the Cardinals offense have been really good, and the Giants are terrible. So they're helping me out here.
Got that going.
Week 7, yeah, Denver dominated on Thursday Night Football against the Saints. That was ridiculous. Arizona, as we talked about, squeaked it out against the Chargers late on Monday night too, and then the Giants got absolutely stomped. So thanks, Giants. It's kind of what I was going for. Week 8. Going against Carolina, we got another head-to-head game, Denver versus Carolina. Don't feel great about Denver losing that one, especially in Mile High. So that's not great for Carolina. And for those that haven't heard, we don't have any details, but Andy Dalton and his family were in a car accident. So we don't have any details of what happened. What? I don't know if Jack even heard that.
Nope.
Just happened about 20 minutes ago.
Breaking news.
Got some breaking news in there too. So haven't heard any details. Just saw the report come out about 15-20 minutes ago. Hopefully everybody's okay. It sounds like it was him and some of the immediate family. So hopefully everybody's good with their prayers up for the Dalton family. But again, tough always playing in Mile High. Pitt playing Monday Night Football, and then Cardinals and Giants of Miami. So that should be an interesting one, Cardinals and Giants. So should be very likely a 1-2 week, but I will not be surprised if I get a 2-1 out of this.
As long as Denver wins, that's the only one. You can have 2 losses after that. Yeah. Right. Well, moving in here, we're going to go into some general fantasy talk. So we're going to have our favorite section here, some swimming upstream.
Oh man, I sure hope that when I hit this button, everything happens. Oh man, guys, it is a struggle bus, and I'm so glad half of you have already left. This is it's absolutely ridiculous. I can't get anything to work today, as I'm sure you guys see my video cut in and out. It's just one of those days, ladies and gents.
Pay no attention behind the curtain. Week 7, I felt bad catching up to Tyler, so I just decided to take the week off. I got 0.02, half of 1 passing yard for Andy Dalton on a week where I literally talked about almost pivoting to Drake May. So that's cool. Tyler had Jared Goff with 18.8, and it didn't work out because he was picking him to have him have a bad week so the Vikings would win. So not only did that not happen,
I tried.
But yeah, so that brought me from 111.0 to 111.02, which dropped me only from QB7 down to QB11. I was shocked at that. Still quarterback ones.
Yeah. And
Tyler is up to 130.5, so he goes from QB7 to QB6. It's a lot steeper steps up in like the top 5-ish range. So week 8 picks, I get the first one this week. So I kind of hemmed and hawed about a couple of options. I am going with, I'm doing the opposite of the reverse curse. I'm going with the Sam Darnold home pick for the Vikings versus the Rams. Thursday night football, so we're going to know very early on if I have another disappointing week here or not. But the short week scares me a little bit. Everybody is healthy, though, which I feel better about. Assuming Aaron Jones plays, that helps a lot in the screen game. And the Rams are top 10 in points per game given up to fantasy quarterbacks. So I do expect them to be able to score decently with Kyren and with cutbacks. So I think it's not going to be a 17-14 type of game. We're going to be in the 20s to maybe low 30s. So hoping a couple of those are touchdowns to Darnold, give me like a 275 and 2 touchdowns type of game, get me to that like 16 to 18, and I'll be plenty happy.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick as well, and certainly one of the ones that were in contention for me if I would have went first. Truly, I mean, I was going to go Jared Goff again, but I'm just going to switch it up just for the sake of switching it up. He's like 48% owned, but he's honestly probably owned pretty much everywhere for you. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix, like I said, against Carolina. Playing at home, Carolina is 21st, 22nd against QBs. And again, that rushing floor for Bo Nix has been incredibly helpful. So he's continuing to play well. Granted, they're trying to establish on the ground. And your boy, Javonte, won't let me quit him. Every time I think he's dead to rights, he puts up 2 touchdowns and averages almost 7 yards a carry. So that Denver offense seems to be coming around, and Javonte in the receiving game, Bo Nix running on the ground as well. So give me some Bo Nix against Carolina at home this week.
Yep. I like that. That was my number 2. So moving into another one of our sections, ship it or skip it. Tyler, what do we got for a couple of those this week?
Yeah, so last week, Jack, we looked at Amari rest of the season. We're looking pretty solid after week 1. So yeah, so he got his touchdown late in the game, but we'll see how it goes. But he's looking at right around that kind of top 18-ish would be my assumption for the rest of the year. So Jack was like, hey, he's going to be wide receiver 12. No, I'm just kidding.
Like high wide receiver 2. I feel good about that.
He's looking good so far, so nothing wrong with that. But want to go into this week for some ship it or skip it with the news coming out that Cooper Kupp, the Rams are open to trading him. They are open to keeping some of his salary, paying some of his salary, if they can get a 2nd round pick back. So I've got 4 spots, and I just want to get a quick ranking for you. Cooper Kupp landing spot if he's able to get traded, and we'll just go rest of season. We don't go dynasty. We'll go rest of this season.
Sure.
Since he's going to come back. So I will go with rank 1, 2, 3, 4, the Bucks, the 49ers, the Commanders, and the Steelers. Rest of season landing spot for Cooper Kupp.
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I think I know my 1 and 4. It's 2 and 3 that I'm not sure on. So I'm going to lock in 1 as the Bucks because Mike Evans potentially being out for 4 more weeks now, 8, 9, 10, and 11. opens up a ton of things with Godwin being out the entire season, because I also think Kupp would kind of slide in more as that slot role. So Baker loves to throw the ball. I think that would be peppering him with targets that were going to Godwin, and for some reason they're going to Kate Otten. So give me the Bucks as number 1. 2 and 3. We're saying Commanders, Steelers, and 49ers. I would probably go. I mean, I know you have McLaurin and you have Pickens in either of those situations. I will probably lean Commanders just because I think Jane Daniels can get the job done more, and I think I like McLaurin opening things up a lot more versus Pickens, who's seeming to quit on half of his routes and not play. Plus, I trust Jaden Daniels at this point more than Russell Wilson. So give me Commanders 2. And I think it could be very interesting with Jaden scrambling to open up Kupp, because he does a lot of those like broken routes, frees himself up for Stafford already. So I will then go, I guess, Steelers 3, just because I think, like, yes, the 49ers just lost Ayuk, but like, what was he doing this year anyways? And I think, like, unless Debo misses more time or Kittle continues to struggle with injuries, we got CMC also coming back. That's going to cut into things. And I expect him to get more targets than Ayuk was currently getting. So I just think there's a lot of weapons in San Fran, whereas Pittsburgh could maybe have a little bit more room. I mean, he clearly would be the one over Pickens, and at least Russ is like showing the offense doing things more. Like, they just put up their first 400-yard total game of the season so far. So I don't love it. I think I'd be very disappointed. It'd be like a low ceiling, high floor type of thing. Whereas the 49ers, I think, would be a very boomer bust type of thing with him. So yeah, long story short, give me Bucks, Commanders, Steelers, 49ers in that order.
Yeah, I don't mind that list at all. Bucks is definitely the number 1 for me. I think I could see the Steelers being a little bit higher just because they were more apt to pass with Russ under center than they were. But again, that doesn't mean that anything would change with that. And Jaden, again, with his rushing ability, he takes away some of that volume, but that the high scoring ability of that offense when they're putting up 35 to 42 points a game versus the Steelers putting up 14 is just different. You just have more opportunities. And so I'm 100% in agreement with you that 49ers are weirdly last just because they don't need that. They've got enough guys there and established, and Christian McCaffrey coming back is just going to cut everybody's volume in in essentially half would be my guess as well. So Bucks for sure 1. I could see toss up 2-3 and 49ers bringing it up the rear.
Perfect. All right. I hope it doesn't happen because I'll be sad either way, but
I agree. But last one for you, just kind of in the same vein then. So if you had to go ship it or skip it, kind of listener question that we got from one of our YouTube shorts on that Amari rest of season from last year. He has both Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper is looking to trade one of them. So just rest of season. And now this again all came out before the Cooper Kupp getting traded news, but fully healthy Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper rest of season. Who are you going with? We'll say in this instance, Kupp stays with the Rams just because obviously otherwise there's too much unknown.
I like Cooper.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, both of them.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, for me, I'm very in on Cooper Kupp over Amari Cooper. I think just PPR wise, he's a lot higher ceiling and safer floor. Amari looked great, and I still expect him to be like a mid to high wide receiver 2, but I think Cooper Kupp is a wide receiver 1 locked in your lineup every week. So that's an easy one for me personally.
Yep. And not going to lie, totally missed that joke. That was phenomenal, and it went right over my head. So I caught it after you did that. So
yeah,
that's good.
Cooper or Cooper.
That's good.
All right. Well,
I'm caught up. I'm caught up now. Good Lord. You can see what kind of
because
damn
I explained it to you.
My gosh.
All right. Suit up or sit down. We're coming in next with a few of your maybe.
Let's hit the button and see how long it takes to happen.
Oh God.
Or doesn't happen. I can just guys, we are just meandering
we're not
our way
having
through.
any drops this week, so just bear with us.
Yeah. I love that on my screen it says playing live and nothing's happening. Okay.
It's playing for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah, everybody else heard it, just not Tyler. Right. So real quick, last week, as far as how we did, there were 6 of the picks total. So we're not going to have as many that normal going forward, but went 4-2. Tyler and I were pretty much consensus on all of them. We nailed the Bucky Irving, Madison reluctant start and the Pickens starts, and then sitting Kelvin Ridley, but we were wrong on Najee. versus the Jets. It was just a lot of garbage time, and that touchdown helped a lot. And then Pop Douglas versus Jacksonville did nothing, so didn't see that coming. But do we have any this week, Tyler?
Yeah, that was not an ideal way to start the diamond suited up for the week. The one we just got the most
one
wrong.
That I picked. We're never doing that segment again.
Like, this is it. I am awesome. This is the guy that's going to do the best out of this against the number 32 pass defense. And he was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, I don't exist. I'm with you.
The logic was sound.
It was. So the first one here for you, I'm going to go with an interesting one, obviously, just coming back from injury, but seemed to get all the work. Nick Chubb versus Baltimore. Again, like I said, he got 75% of the snaps here in this first week back, but he has obviously the opportunity to get entirely game scripted out against the Ravens. So are you putting Nick Chubb back in the lineups against Baltimore this week?
Oh, God. I mean, I think if you have to play him, I don't hate it. He's very much like a flex borderline for me versus that defense and the injury focus. They're not going to come out and give him 25 touches. Like it's not going to happen. And they are upgrading at quarterback, losing their starting quarterback. So, I mean, maybe there's a situation where like Jameis just throws the ball so much that they have a little bit more scoring. You're not going to keep up with the Ravens. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being like a 20-point game difference here. So I would be probably out on Chubb if I at all can play anybody else. If there's anyone else that has a little bit of like flex appeal, they probably have more upside than Chubb this week. So I am out.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me as well, but I can certainly see the sit, exactly like you said. I just think he's still coming back from such a ridiculously brutal injury that they're not just going to be like, hey, here's 100% of the carries, go ahead and go get it. Yeah. And in a game like that, you can just say, hey, we're getting absolutely destroyed. Let's just give him another week to get healthy. So sorry, Nick Chubb. I love you. I might even play you in Gilly, but for now, we're going to have to go with a little bit of a sit down.
All right. Well, who do we got?
Next one for you. I'm going to go with a little bit further down, but somebody coming off a bye and obviously an ambiguous backfield for the whole season. But Rico Dowdle versus the 49ers this week. Off the bye week, seemed to be taken over as the lead, but again, one of the tougher matchup for the week. So Rico Dowdle versus the 49ers.
Talk about one of my guys here. That's the thing is I feel like his best week was 50% of the snaps. So it's not even like he's getting a ton.
Exactly.
I think it could be very, very interesting if they get him involved in the receiving game because same thing, they might be game scripted where they're down early. Both of these teams obviously have looked off in the 49ers and the Cowboys this year. I think I'm okay with him. Like if, for example, if you were deciding between Chubb and Rico Dowdle, give me Rico Dowdle this week. I don't hate him as a flex option.
Agreed.
I don't think he's going to maybe be a wide or a running back too, barring like PPR scoring where he gets a little bit more receiving work. Like if he gets 3, 4, 5 targets because they're dump offs and because they're losing earlier, the Jets or the 49ers defense is coming after Dak. Maybe that works out a little bit more. I think they are turning towards him as more of like the goal line scoring option, which is weird to say over Zeke, but Zeke's kind of just getting phased out. So in a game that could be a lot of scoring because the Cowboys are going to be trailing early with that defense playing rough, I'm okay with Dowdle as like a flex with RB2 touchdown upside.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's totally fair. I think exactly you kind of hit on the end is they're phasing Zeke out. There's no longer an area where it's like Zeke is coming in when it's inside the red zone and he's starting to pound it until they get it in and 2-yard line. He's going to be in there. So for me, Rico's going to start taking over. So I'm good with him this week as well. Last one for you. I'll go quick with it. Interesting one. Big name. Again, an individual I've been out on the whole year, but Chris Olave versus the Chargers this week, number 2 against wide receivers, just because, again, Harbaugh runs the ball so much. They have so much clock possession that they've been second best in the NFL against receivers this year. Rattler's still likely in, but Derek Carr, they're saying Derek Carr could potentially be in. But either way, Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler, how are you feeling about Chris Olave against the Chargers this week?
Terribly, just also for the fact that it's very questionable if he's even going to play. Like as of today, he was still in concussion protocol. So, I mean, you're hoping maybe he gets cleared by Wednesday or Thursday at best. And then we're talking he's missed like a week and a half plus. Concussions can do stuff to you where they're not going to go and make you run 90+% of snaps. I don't hate it. Like if Carr was in with Rashid Shaheed being out and Olave was healthy, I could see this. But with all of these different factors happening, I don't know that the Saints break 14 points. Like, I get the Chargers are bad, but they're also going to run the ball a lot and control the clock, and it's going to go very, very quickly. I like this a lot better as a Kamara kind of game, but also Rattler is not going to be feeding the ball downfield a whole lot successfully. So I am very out on Olave this week, even as like a flex play.
Yeah, I agree. He's just been a sit for me in so many recent games, and with all the injuries and the concussion there on tap, it's just, if you got better options, which hopefully you do at this point, I would sit him as well. So I'm with you, and that's what I got this week for some suit up, a sit down.
Love it. I can't wait to see which one I'm wrong on the most. I don't love any of these three options, but I think I'm probably diamond stamping or diamond suiting, super suiting my pick of. Olave is probably the one I feel the most confident about being a bust, but I'm also pretty confident on Chubb not doing well versus Baltimore. So I'll go with Olave as my super suit one, just so he can prove me wrong and I can be 0 for 2 in that.
There you go.
All right. Moving into some league specific insight stuff. We won't even mess with the drops because that's gone off the rails already. But how you doing? Tyler, any quick insights on the main leagues we share briefly? How you doing?
Yeah, it was a struggle there for a little bit going all the way into Monday, and I got some Monday night miracles all around. I've got Lamar and I've got Derrick Henry, so that really helps the old point score at the end of the day. So I came back. Sorry, Glick. I think he had the second or third most points in the week, but I had the first. So I got the 2 wins over Glick in our main league. The craziest one was in the Minnesota League. I was down by like 5.5 going into literally that last drive for the Cardinals that went down to go get the field goal. I'm down 5.5. The only way I get this win is if they throw a 40-yard screen to James Conner because I get the reception in the 40 yards. Well, they threw a 33-yard screen to James Conner, and then he ran the ball 2 additional times, 2 yards and 6 yards to get them in final field goal range for me to win by 0.5. So that was absolutely awesome. That was one of the craziest endings. And so I won like 126.5 to 125.7. So it was fantastic. I had a lot of fun in it. And I survived Gilly just barely because Justice Hill is apparently a monster.
Yeah, we'll get
so
into that
it was
in a second.
Crazy.
That was insanity also. I'm just going to title this my grinds my gears section because it was another week and another heartbreak. I literally just copied and pasted the same things from the previous week where just got my heart broken again. I finally won my head-to-head matchup, but I missed out on the top 6 by half a point. I was 7th for the second time in 3 weeks by less than 3 points. And what's worst is this drops me down to 4-10, I believe, right now, because we do the median head-to-head games. There's 4 teams above me by 2 games, all at 6 and 8, and I have more points than all of them. I'm right there every single week, but I'm like not consistently in the top 4 scoring or so. I'm just consistently never below 7. So that's breaking my heart. I'm still hanging in there. I mean, I've still got guys that are coming back. Obviously, it's just been a lot of injury issues. Jonathan Brooks could be back any week now. Isaiah Pacheco's still been out. That hurts. Devontae had been out with a fake hamstring, aka hated the Raiders. But we'll see. I'm not quitting. I'm still fighting. And then, like we talked about, Tyler and I sweated in Guillotine. We'll go over that in a little bit briefly here. And lastly, wrapping things up, I am now officially 7-0 in the Taco League, breaking the record for most wins to start the season. I believe that was held by Jordan. Shout out to Jordan previously, with 6 to start a season. So 7-0 now. I am calling it now. This will be the week that it ends because I think Foster takes me down. I think I've been squeaking by for too long without necessarily having like the top 3 score. I've just been getting lucky playing somebody who's very low. This week I lit it up against Connor, but a lot of weeks I've won like 190 and wouldn't have won against half the league. So I'm calling it. I got my record. That's all that matters. Foster can be the one to finish the job here. So moving into
Very nice.
Gilly. We talked about it a little bit, but this was a stressful week for Tyler and I. Technically, it didn't count as a close call in the standings, but it was. Both of us all of a sudden looked. I think I looked at the start of the week and was like, why am I the bottom projected score? I've been like 3rd or 4th in points all year. And then as the games went on, I was like, I'm still on the bottom. I don't like this. And Tyler and I were 2nd and 3rd from the bottom heading into Monday Night Football, and we squeaked things out. So sucks for the bottom team, but a lot of good options this week, which we'll get into. So really briefly, the top 10 most cut players from last week across all the thousands of Guillotine teams. But Number 10 going up to number 1 overall was 10 was Travis Kelce, 9 David Montgomery, injured. Not me, stayed alive even though I played him. Number 8 was CD, who Tyler owns in our league, but he had a bye, so makes sense. Any big time players on bye, it's tough if you don't have fill-ins. 6 was Stroud with a rough week. 5 was Jonathan Taylor, again, surprise injury. 4, Devontae Smith, also basically goosed. Alvin Kamara, Tyreek, kind of a staple on this list at this point, just because Tua's not been back and it's been rough for the Dolphins. 2 was Deebo Samuel with the surprise. Oh, by the way, he's sick 2 minutes before the game started, but then he played and had pneumonia and screwed everybody over. And then 1, Jaden Daniels getting injured in the first quarter. Also, first and 9th guys on the list, both on my team, and still survived. So that's something. We're hanging in there. But a lot of big name guys that were cut across the league this week. So any brief thoughts on like a few of those guys, like, you know, if you believe in them continuing to be like cut candidates for future teams, or if you'd try to just like jump on them based on a down week, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious one is CD, right? If somehow CD got cut, and it happens on bye weeks, this is exactly what happens. You don't go improve your team for a week, and you run into, it's probably not CD. It's also maybe you had a bunch of Bears, which was myself as in this league as well. So I barely survived. I had DeAndre Swift, and I had Cole Kmet as well. So I had CD, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift in a bye, and so I almost got cut. But again, we've said it a couple times now, but these are the type of guys that you're like, go get them. Don't go crazy. You need late season budget, but you can look up that, hey, what has been the cost on average to win somebody over the last 1 week, 6 weeks for the season. Live somewhere around there. It's a law of averages, right? But you know your league better than we do. You might have to pay up a little bit more for those big names. Us in Minnesota, we got to pay up a little bit more to get our Vikings and things like that. It's just how it goes. But if you're going to find that lineup staple, you have to go get it. But also remember, and Jack's going to make this point here in a second, remember those tertiary guys. You don't have to just go against those top guys. Look at injuries, look at future bye weeks, look at, hey, what is this one guy that I can be successful with in 2 weeks that nobody's thinking about right now because they're focused on CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Segueing into that, just a couple of guys we wanted to highlight that are going to probably not go for as much in your leagues as you would expect, because either they're not going to be the top name at their position, and a lot of people just like to click the top 3 and then bid on them because they're the best before stats have started to update and everything. But a couple of like key wide receiver injuries. Brandon Ayuk going down. Juwan Jennings, who's already had success this season. He had the blowout week 3 or week 4, I believe. And then Ricky Pearsall finally came back active off the IR this past week too. Either of them could be in some line for some targets with Ayuk being out and step in. Maybe even better than Ayuk had been playing so far. So I would speculatively add either one of them if you're struggling to find like maybe your 2 flex fill-ins. Or same thing with both Godwin out for the season and Mike Evans out for 4 weeks, it sounds like. Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, any Tampa Bay receivers right now, like you probably can get any of them for, I would assume, like $10 or less, because not a lot of people are going to bid on them, and anyone who does is going to throw like $2-3 on them. Go stash one of them on your bench, if anything, because like these guys with Godwin and Ayuk being out for the year, they're guys that aren't going to just be like a rental. They're going to be ones that if you hit the right player could be startable flex wise for the rest of the season. So those are the ones we kind of try to look at before maybe like the rest of the market catches up with them. Like go grab somebody now for cheaper based on maybe you don't need them right this week, but like they're going to be a nice little depth fill in for the next few weeks until you get your elite squad. Really quickly, we always like to highlight buys. There are no buys this week. So this week, everybody is at full strength. So keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, I got a full lineup, like doesn't matter this week like it sometimes does with other weeks. So everybody else has that may lead to you wanting to spend a little bit more, or just checking kind of what the initial projections are before waivers run tomorrow, being like, okay, am I really in the top? Because sometimes it's skewed when people are like, oh, they're way far down, but they're going to put somebody else in later. So next week, we've got Steelers and 49ers as the only 2 teams as buys. So you Pickens, Najee owners, or Jordan Mason, Debo, Kittle, be advised on this now. Maybe get a plan in place, especially for those onesie positions. But if you're, for example, rostering, Jordan Mason or Najee, and you're weak at running back, might be the time to go get somebody else early. A couple of big notable bids in our league, just for real life examples that happened last week. Somebody bid $301 for CMC, which is crazy. Sounds like he'll be back maybe week 10, week 11, but still is a lot of money. You got to bank on surviving the next 3 here. DK 175 felt pretty good. Obviously not ideal now that he's week to week. It sounds like it's a grade 1 MCL sprain, which we'll talk about later, but not great timing there because he might be out for like 2 to 4 weeks. Kareem Hunt, $75. That felt like really good value because you're probably riding him until at least week 10 before Pacheco comes back in mid-November, early December. And then Amari Cooper, I got him for 74, overpaid by like 20 to $30, but feels pretty good because he's now slotted as my wide receiver 2, soon to be wide receiver 3 if Kupp comes back this week. So few guys kind of across the board, some overpaid, some underpaid, but yeah, going to be very different for everybody's league. So we will see what happens in our waivers tomorrow. We got a lot of running backs and no receivers whatsoever.
Yeah, agreed. If I'm going to go for somebody, and Jack mentioned the Tampa Bay receivers earlier, I'm going with Jalen McMillan. He's going to be that slot guy, and we know Baker loves to throw to the slot. He loves the seams with K-Dot, and that was evident once everybody went out. But I think Jalen McMillan is going to jump in pretty quickly here and be a pretty heavy PPR monster. So that would be my go-to versus like a Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, totally agree. We'll actually talk about him a little bit later in the waivers too to highlight him again. But first, real quick, we're going to kick it off with some DFS Faceoff. So Tyler is going to get his lovely drink of choice ready tonight as we highlight kind of how things went. So week 7's results head-to-head. I am now up to 3 wins on the year. So we got Tyler at 4, me at 3. Tyler was 3-0 to start the year. So we're making it a comeback, making it a little bit of a game after a back-to-back weeks. For me, I had 115.68, good for number 1 on the week, and a little scoring thing. Pretty low scores overall. Usually you see somebody in the 150 plus if you hit a big player, but Tyler had 62.62, just missed the double up. I was hoping for the 2 shot.
So bad.
But didn't work out. I was tracking it through the day.
It was brutal.
We had several duplicates and crossovers that were rough.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. I went with like Carolina against Washington. They're both like Washington's gonna destroy them, but they're gonna be able to keep up somewhat. And then Andy Dalton was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I don't exist," and so I'm actually really bad. So obviously, as we heard earlier, 0.02 doesn't really get the job done when you're in DFS.
That was definitely the key position tiebreaker. Tyler going with vodka, looks like.
Some more Bacardi Limon, because that's all that's here.
Yeah. Oh, no. The Andy Dalton Deontay stack of 4.7 combined for him versus my Geno DK stack, working out to 37.5, was pretty much the difference maker on that one. We both had Chuba, Tony Pollard, Juju, Malik Neighbors. All of them were relative ice values on their salary. So a lot of crossover on some rough guys there. The only real shout out that we had, I talked about Brock Bowers. Even though he was one of the higher valued tight ends, he still seemed very cheap to me, and he went out and put 19.3 up. So good pick there. Some real brief week 8 early thoughts that I'll go through just so we can get into our last couple sections here. But Jameis Winston, only 5,200 versus Baltimore. He has now been named the active starter, and Jameis likes to huck it and chuck it. So they're going to be losing early, like I talked about, and have to throw. Plus, the Ravens' run defense is one of the best in the league, while their pass defense is 4th highest pass EPA, and over 350 plus yards have been given up over the last two out of 3 weeks. We also got Caleb Williams at 6,000, Bo Nix at 5,200 versus bad Commanders and Panthers defenses that I don't hate for cheap value. Running backs wise, I got Achane at 6,200 versus Arizona. Even if Tua doesn't return, I don't hate this, but if he does, I like this a lot. Rashad White, 5,700, and Bucky Irving at 5,800. Basically the same value, so take your pick versus Atlanta. We got no Godwin and Evans, so we talked about that. There's going to be more dump offs and probably more of a run game focus. Receivers wise, a lot of mid options I like, so I probably wouldn't be doing like the big spend up guys unless you have the extra budget. But Brian Thomas 6,400, Amari Cooper 6,000, Waddle 5,400 if Tua plays. Rashad Bateman just went off. He's only 4,300 valued. The Bucs wide receivers, again, taking your pick at 3,500 to 3,700. So basically nothing. And if you want to go really gross, Cedric Tillman's the Browns deep shot guy, 3,300 for the value. He just got 8 catches for 81 yards on 12 targets last week. So could be very interesting for like a cheap budget guy that you want to fit in. And then tight end wise, only a couple of guys really, but Trey McBride, my boy, 5,500. It seems pretty low versus Miami. They're not great against the tight end. He has double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight weeks and 6 or more targets in every single game this week. If Tua's back, I just assume they're at least going to be able to put up points, which will mean they'll have to throw more for McBride. Otherwise, a little bit cheaper. David Njoku, 5,100. Explosive return this past week. Now they, again, don't have Amari Cooper, so that helps more too. And then Cade Otton, same thing we talked about with the Buccaneers receivers being gone. He's only at 3,500, so that's insanely cheap, and he'll probably be the new number one target option in the meantime. So there's a few for you. We'll see if I can tie things up here at 4-4 next week, or if Tyler takes back out the early lead. So we'll move into Dynasty Download here and keep it pretty quick. We don't have to cover a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to jump into the keep trade cut only just to give us a little bit of something, and we'll do more trades in the future next week. But my keep trade cut for you this week, Tyler, we got 3 receivers, kind of a variety of age groups and how to value them, because we're in kind of some different situations right now. So we'll say half PPR, but are you keeping, trading, or cutting each of DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, and Rashee Rice? All relatively close value in keep trade cut rankings.
Interesting. It's so hard to know with Rashee, and not only his injury, but the looming suspension as well. Just a reminder that for everybody, not only is he going to be out the rest of this year, he's likely suspended at least the first 4 games next year, would be my guess as far as a minimum too. So that's going to impact some of the dynasty value. That's going to impact some of the trade value. So that one's almost more of a team context, right? If I'm competing now, I'm probably trying to trade Rashee and see if somebody either whatever next year feels like they're gonna compete and I can offload him. So he's honestly, of these 3, he's probably gonna be my cut, just because I think he's got the least value right now. Between the two, between DJ Moore and Zay Flowers. Zay is so inconsistent. He seems to be game scripted out or game scripted in. It's just if it's a close game, he seems to get his average depth of target of 3 yards and have 8 catches for 81 yards, or he has 1 catch for 7 yards because Derrick Henry has 37 rushing attempts. So for me, it seems like DJ Moore has the most consistent, most consistent target volume, but it also still hasn't been great. So just based on the fact of Zay Flowers in his youth, I think they will start to figure out how to utilize him the best. And I'm actually going to keep Zay Flowers. I'm going to trade DJ Moore, and I'm going to cut Rashee Rice, which I don't know that will be the most popular decision.
I was going to say, this is the first time that we're completely different on all 3 picks. Yeah. So I will, again, team context makes a lot of sense here, but I am going to keep Rashee Rice for the same reason that you actually said you would cut him, just because I think he has the lowest value currently. I think he is going to be very low value relative to what he is. And if you're playing the dynasty game, yeah, he's out this week or this year. Yeah, if he's suspended the first 4 games, whatever, we're out of the way. He's still a young guy in his 3rd season tied to Patrick Mahomes for the long term. Xavier Worthy having a rough go of it this year and all the receivers doing nothing honestly helps me with his opinion dynasty-wise more, because I think he'll still be the guy mid next year when he comes back. And then they don't have to do the whole rushing him in kind of thing. You can kind of just use off-season as like getting him back in the flow of things, but then not have to put him in week 1 and kind of make sure he's healed up fully from the injury. For me, I think you can just so assuming I'm keeping Rashee Rice and I'm cutting one of the other 2, I think I just go down to which guy you can get more value for, and I'm going with Zay Flowers just because I think you can trade him for a higher amount at this point. And then DJ Moore, I don't know that he's going to ever return back to like what he was doing in the Panthers. I think they're going to eventually use Rome Odunze a little bit more, and I don't know that Caleb's going to sustain 2 to 3 options consistently. So obviously, you hope you can trade him for something else, but I would probably cut DJ Moore over Zay Flowers just because you can probably capitalize on it. And I've never been a big Zay guy, and I like the idea of getting more value. So
I don't mind it. I get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll skip trades for now, and we'll move into the last couple of things just to do waivers and injuries and get the heck out of here. So waiver wise, any targets for quarterback and wide receiver? I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, quarterback, pretty slim pickings this week, but going with my streamer of the week, so we're gonna go with Bo Nix, about 23% owned, going against Carolina this week. I think is certainly somebody you could honestly just kind of plug and play and be good to go. Russ is another one. He was actually my second option for the Steelers. He looked good. I mean, they finally put up a whole mess of yards. He runs less, so he's going to rely on throwing more. So about 14% owned. Drake May, we've talked him up a couple times in previous weeks, so he's somebody who can go out there and you can plug in and play this week. Tough against the Jets defense, so I might go Bo or Russ over Drake this week. But and again, Jack, we just talked about Jameis, about 3% owned, so he's probably universally out there. But he's huck it, chuck it, Jameis Winston, so can't go wrong there. As far as wide receivers, there's a mess of options with how many injuries just went through there. Juwan Jennings probably out there, maybe owned, but only 36% owned. Ricky Persil, 25% owned. Again, Ayuk is out for the year with the torn ACL and MCL. So one of these guys is going to step up. And again, we know CMC is going to be back, but not yet. So you're probably going to have at least a few weeks with one of these receivers. Anybody that's a Tampa Bay wide receiver, you probably got a shot on. Take your pick, whether it's Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, who we talked about, and as well. So find somebody out there. Hopefully you guess right and see who comes out of for Baker. Cedric Tillman, we talked about earlier. Noah Amari, Watson out there, deep threat, could be a sneaky option for you. Troy Franklin as well. Only 8% owned. He's getting about 50% plus snap share the last 2 weeks and is growing. Sutton just hasn't been used. So there's some options out there for you and a wide receiver if you're thin.
I just limited it to 2 or 3 for running back and tight end, but running backs wise, Jalen Warren being under 50% owned is crazy to me. He's at 42. Najee started and did well in garbage time, but Warren had 12 for 40 plus and 2 catches for 15 yards of his own, getting much more work than was expected after coming off of some injuries recently. He looks more explosive, and it seems like the offense is trending up with Russ, so I feel like he's a guy I would stash now to see if the transition finally happens. Ray Davis, I talked about him last week again, but he's still only 29% owned despite the spot start where he exploded, so I thought the numbers would be higher. And then he had a really good week this past week, even with Cook back. And then lastly, Tyler Goodson down at 15%. Obviously, people have picked up and started Trey Sermon the last couple of weeks with JT out, but he continues to be out even longer. We thought he'd be back the week before. We thought he'd be back last week, and he's not. This past week, it finally happened where Goodson got more of the work after outplaying him in recent weeks. So I think that's going to probably continue as long as JT is out, and they'll probably spell him in the meantime when he returns too. Tight end wise, I got 2 options. Hunter Henry at 30%. Drake May is looking pretty solid. For 2 weeks with Drake May, Hunter Henry has had 3 catches for 5 yards, for 41 yards, and a touchdown, and then 8 out of 9 catches for his targets for 92 yards. So surprisingly well, it seems like May's looking his way a lot as the security blanket. And then the guy I talked about earlier, but Cade Otton, 41% owned. Same reason I've gotten Godwin Evans being out that I keep talking about. Sure. He had 8 catches on 10 targets for 100 yards on Monday Night Football. So I expect that to kind of continue with probably like 6+ catches each week going forward. And my Catalina wine mixer pickup of the week. Last week I talked about mine being Ray Davis. He still had 5 carries, 41 yards, and a touchdown, even with Cook back. So this week, we've talked about him a bunch, so I won't repeat the points, but Jalen McMillan is my guy. He's a rookie, so he might not kick in right away, but I think the rest of the season filling in those Godwin slot targets is going to be very valuable. So really quickly, we'll rattle through the notable injuries here and then be good to go.
Yeah, QB's just a couple this week. For those that unfortunately had to watch it, Deshaun Watson ruptured Achilles. He stepped and it snapped and rolled up the back of his leg. So it's hard to watch, but he's definitely out for the year. Jaden Daniels, rib injury. So they're determining him week to week, but so he might just miss this 1 week, but it'll be interesting for him. Hopefully plays this week, but I don't foresee it. So my guess is he sits out this 1 week, but sorry, all the fantasy players, we'll hopefully see him back next week. And the last one for you, Tua, he's back, designated to return from IR concussion. He's going to get full participant in practice this week. So hopefully we can turn the Dolphins around because we all know they were drafted very highly, and we hope Tua is okay and can play through all the concussions. As far as wide receivers, there's a mess of them, so I'm just going to list them off here. Rashid Shaheed, he's got a knee injury. Cooper Kupp has got an ankle injury, but he's likely going to be back for Thursday Night Football. Unfortunately for us Vikings fans, Dontavian Wicks shoulder injury, missed last week, expected to miss a couple weeks. Juju came back. He had a hamstring injury, played about 1 play and went out. So me and Jack were super fond of that with DFS. Ayuk, torn ACL, MCL, he's done for the year. Redraft, he's totally droppable. Probably going to miss half of next year as well, since ACL and MCL. Kittle, foot, day-to-day, he should be just fine. I don't know how he ended up in my wide receivers category, but here we are. Debo had his pneumonia, so he was released from the hospital today. He should be just fine. Godwin, dislocated ankle. So sorry for him. Again, for those that had to watch that, he is done for the season, droppable in redraft. Evans hamstring, they're saying he's out through the bye week, which is their week 11. So he should be out for the next about 4 weeks. DK Metcalf, MCL sprain, likely out this week, potentially out the following week as well.
Then running backs running it out. We got Jonathan Taylor still with the ankle. He's copy and paste from me every week, so he's supposed to return this week, but who knows? Travis Etienne, hamstring injury. He missed last week. He's projected to miss 1 to 2 more. Same with Tyjae Spears. Missed last week, 1 to 2 more weeks out. CMC news-wise, they're targeting the Week 10 post-bye for his return, so we'll see if that stays, but mid-November as of now. Then David Montgomery, knee. He left the game early but returned. It sounds like it was just a bruise. It sounds like somebody kneed his knee in the back, so he should be fine. And then tight end-wise, beyond George Kittle, we got TJ Hawkinson news. He's still in the 21-day practice window, which was opened last week. He's close this week, but being Thursday Night Football, it makes it tough. I feel like if it was a Sunday game, he'd probably be back. I won't be surprised if he misses this week, and we just try to finish the job on our own. So that's what we got for injuries-wise. We're going to be postponing the draft to next week just because it's been a long day, and we're ready to get the heck out of here. So if you have any thoughts, let us know for your favorite pump-up or walk-up songs, just anything that really gets the blood going, gets the juices flowing, any picks you have, or if anybody wants to draft against us and see how we do. So we will have that coming for you next week. We'll recap Week 8 next week. We'll do all of our games. So please, if you have any start-sit questions, any comments, any things you want to hear us debate on NFL-wise or fantasy or otherwise, toss it on the YouTube comments. It really helps us out there. And that's all I got.
Yeah, it was appreciate everybody listening. So sorry for all the technical difficulties today, but the subs have really been rolling in. So we're up to, like I said, 130 individuals, and our goal is 150 by the end of the season. So we're moving close to our goal. So appreciate all the likes, comments. We see them starting to roll in on some of our shorts that have come through. So appreciate all the support as always. But we'll be better next week, Pod Squad. And until then, peace out.
Goodbye.